The largest U.S. territory is now officially in default. Puerto Rico didn't pay $58 million in debts that was due at the close of business today. It's the first default in the island's history. The Commonwealth debt pile is as big as that of the state of New York, whilst its economy is some 17 times smaller. Puerto Rico's governor says the island's economy is currently in a death spiral. Joining me on the line from San Juan is Pedro Pierluisi, the resident commissioner of Puerto Rico. That means he's the sole member of the U.S. Congress representing the territory. Commissioner, thank you for joining us, and Congressman, thank you for joining us. The question now, so default has arrived. How on earth does Puerto Rico get out of this mess?
Well, the first thing that I have to say is that it is very unfortunate that that payment was not made today. The funds were available, and it looks like it is a strategy to bring creditors to the table, to the negotiating table, and I disagree with the strategy. Puerto Rico might be heavily indebted, but a lot of this debt is manageable, it's payable. What you have to do in Puerto Rico is to restructure debt at the level of government-owned corporations like the Puerto Rico Power Authority and the Puerto Rico Water and Sewer Authority, but we shouldn't be failing to make payments, particularly when we have the funds to make them.
Well, except, look, you know, I've got a bit of experience about this, having just been in Athens for goodness knows how long. Surely the only way to bring those creditors to the table is to threaten default, or if you've got a huge debt pile, actually default.
Actually, it doesn't work. That's not the way it should work in the case of Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico is not a sovereign country. You cannot compare Puerto Rico to Greece. You're talking about 17, 18 different government entities that have issued funds. A lot of them have done so and have no financial difficulty in meeting their payment obligations. The central government of Puerto Rico definitely has issued some funds, and actually the bonds are manageable. So it's simplistic to talk about Puerto Rico having $72 billion in debt, and that's too much debt. It doesn't work that way. What we should do, though, is to sit down and negotiate with creditors like we have been trying to do, for example, at the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, finalize that negotiation, and use it as a model for other entities like our Water and Sewer Authority.
Okay,
that's what we should be doing.
But if you do that, first of all, you've got to hope the creditors are going to negotiate with you. But also, surely what really needs to happen is, as we saw a few months ago, the government needs to be given the ability, as indeed was Detroit, as indeed was Orange County, to go bankrupt.
Well, I agree that Puerto Rico should be treated like a state for purposes of the federal bankruptcy code. I have a bill pending before Congress, and there's a similar bill pending before the Senate, the U.S. Senate. And basically, the way Chapter 9 of the bankruptcy code works, it allows state legislative assemblies to determine which government entities within each state, and in the case of Puerto Rico would be within Puerto Rico, can reorganize themselves under the protection of the bankruptcy code, of the bankruptcy court. And that should be available to Puerto Rico. It wouldn't allow Puerto Rico, the central government, the Commonwealth, to declare bankruptcy. But it would allow, for example, the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, the Puerto Rico Water and Sewer Authority, to reorganize themselves. And it is a tool that would be helpful. So I agree with you. We should have that access.
Sir, thank you for joining us. We'll talk more about this in the future. We appreciate you giving us time.